another episode of the Higher Level Podcast. So tonight, James, Doolan and myself are going to be looking back over the year that was 2022. We're going to be looking at some fighters, some fights, some finishes, and all of that fun stuff. So James, just before we go into all that, how's 2022 been for you as a coach?
It's been alright, man. It's been quite a big year with Stevie getting back out at PFL, Mark and Keir getting to go to South Africa to UFC, and then Mark going to Ares and stuff, and then we had a lot going on with amateurs with Kunle and stuff like that, going to IMAF stuff, Sean, and then we Stephen going to Canada with the WBC World Youth Games. Chris Shaw was at 1FC, so it's been a busy year, man. The only thing we never done this year was UFC. Danny was matched and then got injured, so it was the only one we never done this year. We've done pretty much every other major promotion.
How's this year compared to, obviously taking out the COVID years, how's this compared in terms of how busy you've been to previous years? Because the fight team looks like it's growing. I know you like to keep it at a certain size, but
it's been relatively busy, man. What's happening is our pro guys are getting onto big shows. We've got a new crop of younger pros like Mark and Keir coming through who are going to go into big shows and stuff. And then our amateur guy, we've got 4 guys to turn pro next year. So it's been quite a busy year, man. And then obviously we made a bit of a concerted effort this year to get back involved with Thai boxing. So we had Chris Shaw fighting, and then Martin McCrory and Justin and John Joe and stuff. So we've been pretty active with MMA, Thai and Jiu-Jitsu as well.
And just to look forward a wee bit, 2023, I don't imagine it's going to get any quieter. I think and obviously, personally, you've got some new arrivals coming, so every plate's going to be spinning at.
Aye, we've got a busy start to the year. We've got obviously Paul Craig January in Brazil at UFC 283, I think it is. We've got Craig Mopp and Keir on Bellator Dublin February, and I've just matched Kunle, Lorenzo and Logan for Cage Warriors. 2 of them, or Cage Warriors Academy, 2 of them are for amateur titles. So the rest of the year will fill up, man. I think PFL comes back in March and that as well. So Stevie goes back into that season. So it's going to be busy next year.
It's going to be interesting. So let's look at the year back. So we'll get a few categories we've got to run through. So I think starting off with fighter of the year, in terms of the whole scope of MMA. When you look over at UFC or the promotion, for you, what fighter stands out?
There's been a couple. I think my straight pick's Volkanovski. He's defended his belt and stuff like that. It's not even so much the fights. It's the performances. He looks like probably the best fighter in the sport now. So I've got him as my fighter of the year this year. There's a close second, Charles Oliveira. I think if what the wee run he was on up to and including winning the belt, obviously lost that against Islam, but for a guy who was like, at one point I think he was 8-8 in the UFC, do you know what I mean? He wasn't like a guy who'd have mapped out to become a champion. He'd win one, lose one, and then went on that mad run. I think it was like, I can't remember, it was maybe 6 or 7 wins or something, but some of the names on his record were incredible, and he was stopping them all. And so it would have been him if it wasn't for him losing to Islam. So it's pretty much got to be Volkanovski for me, I think.
Unfortunately, I'm going to be a bit boring here and kind of mirror exactly what you said. That's exactly who I had, Volkanovski, and it's just things like the Ortega fight, that choke, especially knowing the guy that had the choke on, stuff like that stands out. And he is, for his age, he's not somebody that's been in the sport since he was a kid, and he just seems to improve fight by fight. And then obviously he's got Islam coming up as well. So for me, that's who I had as well. And just, you mentioned Charles Oliveira. I mean, he did run him close. Obviously, the Islam fight changes that, but what an amazing run he had. especially against the guys he was fighting. And now I've got breakthrough fight of the year. Now I'm going to go first on this, just so folk don't think I'm stealing all your answers. That's just quite a hard one for me, and I'll give you the reason I've picked this guy, and it's probably an obvious pick actually. Who do you think I've picked?
I've no idea, but I'm hoping those are not the same. We've not discussed this previously. Just
we've not. I'm fair. So I've picked Paddy Pimblett, and I'll give you my reasoning for it. I know there's even Ilya Topuria, you could argue, and a few other guys, but the reason I've picked Paddy, it's no just for what's happened in the case, it's just how much he blew up worldwide and became a bit of a phenomenon. Obviously, judging on the last fight, it wasn't brilliant, but I've picked Paddy Pimblett. I just think he's broke into the mainstream. He's a massive name now, so I went with Paddy.
I think some websites and that went with him as well. To be fair, I think if there was an award for kind of breakthrough personality of the year or character of the year, it maybe be him. I went to Alex Pereira for breakthrough fighter of the year, because if you look at what he's now the middleweight champion, so it seems weird, but he's only been in the UFC I don't think he's been in the UFC for 2 years. So if you look at what he's done even this year, he's got himself into contention for the belt. Albeit I think he was matched pretty well, because the UFC wanted him to have that fight with Adesanya. But I've got Alex Pereira as my breakthrough fight of the year. It's basically just because of the speed at which he's came into the UFC and he's now the champion. I can't remember anybody else ever doing that.
Yeah. And it was a really good matchup against Adrian Styles. I mean, we'll see what happens going forward, whereas he fights him again straight away. But next up, we've got fight of the year. This will be an interesting one. So run me through your thinking on this and where you went.
It's a hard one. It seems to be there's almost like a fight of the year every month, and then there's also like a recency bias to it, where I'm pretty sure there's some massive fights in January that we forgot about. I narrowed it down to a couple. I had Glover Teixeira versus Jiri for the belt. I thought it was an excellent fight. That's probably one I would give fight of the year to, just because it was back and forth. It was one of those fights that wasn't one-sided. It was two guys trying to impose their game on each other, and it was a great fight. I also like Cyril Gane versus Tai Tuivasa in Paris. Big fight again, back and forth, both of them hurting each other. Couple points during that, you're wondering what was keeping the guys up. And the last one I was actually at this one live, was at PFL, was Clay Collard and Jeremy Stevens, where the two of them just beat the absolute crap out of each other. I don't think either of them went for takedowns. Clay Collard won, I think, pretty convincingly, but Stevens gave him all sorts of problems. I think hurt him a couple of times. It was like, the atmosphere at that fight was excellent. It was in a small TV studio. I think we were in Dallas, Texas, with maybe like 1,500 people or something. But it was a real good fight. Man. I don't know if I'm biased with that because I was sitting like in the crowd for it and stuff. But it was technically very good. It was entertaining and stuff like that. It was an excellent fight. But I think I will have to pick one. It's Glover versus Jiri for me.
Yeah, I was close on that one. I was kind of swaying between that and Khamzat versus Burns.
Good fight.
I kind of went with the Khamzat Burns fight, just kind of based on the fact that Khamzat had looked invincible in every fight, and that's the first fight where he's obviously went up against a top guy, and it's the first fight where he's looked kind of human. You know what I mean?
Good fight.
It's more than anything else, it's the fight that stuck out in my mind. It's the first fight that popped into my head, which is ultimately why I went with it. But that's what I went with, is Khamzat versus Burns. Now next we've got KO of the year. So I don't know, is this the most obvious category at the moment? Because is it hard to look past Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson?
I've got Leon Edwards, Usman.
Right.
The thing with the Chandler Ferguson thing is Tony's gone, man. Tony's getting hurt in every single fight now. the Leon one, there's more on the line. It's welterweight title. Leon's losing. Like, it looked like the writing was on the wall. And then he's landed that shot and changed absolutely everything. So I've got that. I think just because of the nature of it, it's like the perfect shot. He'll never throw a better kick, time a better kick when he needs it more than that shot. The stuff that came out after it, with his coaches talking about it before it, you can see them looking at footage of Usman throwing stuff and dipping when I think he dips on the fake jab or something, or the fake left cross, and Leon's pinged him with it. When if he never landed that, he probably would never have got the victory. Do you know what I mean? It looked like he was on his way to losing. So I think just because of the magnitude of what was on the line and stuff, and like it's a proper severe KO. He's on proper out. So I've got that.
I think we've got to mention a guy, Chito Vera. I mean, he could have been in contention for a couple of KOs, but he's been spectacular this year as well, Chito Vera.
Aye, the other guy was Adrian Yanez, knocked out the guy. They knocked out the guy who's meant to have been racist and stuff like that. Another
terrorist thing.
He was good. Yanez, maybe the best boxer on that bantamweight division. He was excellent as well. That one stood out as well. And
so next we'll go to submission of the year. Now I'm going to jump in first on that, because the guy I've got for sub of the year is a guy that trains with us. So I've got Stevie Ray for submission of the year. It just stands out to me. I know it's no UFC, it's PFL, so it's not going to get as much mentions, but for me that was considering who he was fighting as well, that was an amazing submission. So I've got Stevie in that one.
I have that as well. It hasn't been biased either, to be fair. It's, again, what was on the line. He's went into that fight knowing that he had to win in 12 minutes 30 seconds. I don't know if PFLs gave Pettis the Stevie fight thinking that Pettis would have his way with Stevie. I don't know what to think logic was with matchmaking, but we basically went into that fight knowing that Stevie had to stop Anthony Pettis, and he's very hard to knock out. And similar to the Edwards Usman thing, that submission wasn't a fluke. We knew that when you get on Pettis' back, he's very good at rotating up into the top position, and Stevie's problem solved that and came out with that response to it. So I had that as my submission of the year. Obviously, was there for it live and stuff, but it was not a normal submission. That, man, it's frightening to pull it off at that level with that pressure, and he absolutely nailed it. I think the only other one I had that came close to it would have been Charles Oliveira subbing Dustin Poirier, but again, it wasn't a twister against under the constraint, say you need to beat this guy in 12 minutes 30 or your year's done type of thing.
Yeah. Charles Oliveira's, again, it's what a year he had. Obviously didn't finish perfect for him, but what a year he had, considering where he was in his career before. Got to give a special mention to that guy. So now we'll sort of move on to, let's just focus on the gym. Now I'm not going to jump in this. You're just going to give me who you believe deserves the award in each category. So we'll go through the categories again. This must be a difficult one for you to try and pick guys, especially fighter of the year. So who in the gym for you? Who stood out?
So some big years for some of our guys. If we do a pro one and an amateur one, the pro one's going to be Stevie this year, just because he's had 3 years off and he's came back. He ran Martinez pretty close in that fight. He subbed Pettis the first time and beat him the second time, and then obviously got to the PFL World Championship and lost to Olivier. But it was a time off, and the fact he was never supposed to fight again that made what he's done this year pretty special. Mark Ewan has had a very good year, obviously. And other than the Sam Creasy thing, Luke Shanks had not a bad year, but Mark Ewan's going to win fight of the year for the next 10 years if he wants. Do you know what I mean? For the gym point of view. So for me, the pro fighter, I think when I spoke with other coaches about this as well.
Mm-hmm.
This year it's going to be Stevie.
Yeah.
In terms of the amateur fight of the year, again, speaking to the coaches in the gym, we went with Coonley. He's basically been on I think he was on a 4-fight losing streak or something. I had some time away, and he's came back. Went into IMAF, and he's had 3 fights in 3 days. He's beat the favourite, Teddy Stringer, who had medalled at the Worlds, I think. He beat 2 other good guys with good records on the second and the third day. And then he's come home and picked up the on top belt too. So he's 4-0 for the year. But the turnaround in him has been incredible. I think he's matured a lot since having a kid. I think his priorities have changed and stuff like that. And I can see it with him in the gym. So he was our amateur fighter year. That was a hard one to pick because Sean Clancy had a very good year. Paul Lally had a very good year. And Logan McGonigal had not a bad year as well. But and there's 1 or 2 others as well, like Lorenzo and stuff. But it was Coonley this year. Basically just because of where he was at the start of the year and how he's finished the year.
And in terms of the breakthrough guy at the gym this year, go pro and amateur on this, give us both. Who's?
Pro's probably been Mark Ewan. He's went to he's came away from domestic level. He's went to Johannesburg for EFC, and he's went to Paris for Ares, and 2 more stoppages on his resume. So in terms of, again, it sounds weird referring to Mark as a breakthrough fighter because everybody is very aware of his capabilities and his potential, but he's proven it on the big stages this year against international guys. And part of the reason for that's been and it's well documented. It's very hard to get him fights domestically. Like he gets turned down left, right, and centre in the UK. So he's had to travel, but. So our breakthrough pro fighter is Mark Ewan, and our breakthrough amateur fighter is going to be Paul Lally, who he's 3-0, I think, this year. He's fought some good guys. He's never looked like he's been out of first gear. To be honest, when you watch him fight, he's massively mature for his age and experience. Even in his first fight, he's doing stuff that some of the seasoned pro guys kind of do, like controlling the distance and setting stuff up and faking and stuff. So he was kind of runaway with it. He's went for not being on the radar to he's now one of the kind of top prospects in the gym at flyweight. The kid's also balanced and working. I think he's had a big year at uni with his degree year and stuff like that, and he's kind of killing it just with everything that he does, really. So our breakthrough amateur will be Paul Lally.
That's kind of what this category's for. It's for kids like Paul Lally, isn't it?
He was a guy we weren't sure if he ever wanted to compete, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe going day one, but he's took to it really well, man. He's very good to work with as a coach. He's smart kid. Works hard, and he's physically pretty gifted as well. But he's got a lot of potential if that's the road he wants to go down.
Yeah. And then fight of the year, what fight? Obviously, you've not been cage side at every fight. The guys at the gym, what ones have stood out?
There was a couple. Keir had a draw in South Africa. There was a bit of a fight. It was back and forth and stuff like that, but at times it got quite messy. So for me, I think it has to be Stevie versus Anthony Pettis too. A completely different dynamic for the first one. Yeah. Stevie had to stand up in spells a wee bit more than that, and then he still got his wrestling off, and Pettis defended the back and stuff, had made adjustments for the first fight, but I think Pettis came in the second time and he wouldn't have underestimated Stevie. It was the knockout stages of that competition, so it was you have to win. Whereas the first fight was already through to the semi-finals, but yeah, it has to be that just because of the level of competition. And it was back and forth and stuff like that, but I think Stevie ended up winning that 30-27-1, scoring 29-20-2, so it's got to be that one as the as the pro fight of the year. In terms of the amateur, again, it's hard to pick. So if you get these first round submissions and stuff like that, it's kind of hard to call that a fight of the year. Do you know what I mean? Unless it's been back and forth before you get it. Aye. So I think the amateur fight of the year's got to be Coonley versus Teddy Stringer, which was his first fight at the IMAF tournament. And again, Stringer was the favourite to win that. He's kind of like the golden boy of the English Mixed Martial Arts Association. And I think he thought he was going to steamroll Coonley, because I think Coonley was 5-5 going into that tournament.
Yeah.
And Coonley just kind of stood him on his head a wee bit. Like he looked confused. He ran out of ideas pretty quick, and Coonley just kind of dealt him pretty well. So I think that would have been our amateur fight of the year. Again, there was some good ones. Stephen Skipton had a good fight, and Paul Wally had a couple of good fights and stuff like that as well. But the level of competition, Coonley's like 11th amateur fight, Stringer's in double figures as well. It's got to be Coonley, I think, for amateur fight of the year.
Brilliant. And KO of the year?
Mark Ewan at Ares, I think. Versus Dada. You see his setup coming. If you watch the footage and stuff, you can see the setup coming maybe about a minute before it comes. Mark starts changing stance and kind of shepherding the guy round towards his right hand side, and then catching him with that double right hook, and knocked him out. And it's against a guy who's never been knocked out before. Dangerous guy. It wasn't like a fluke. Do you know what I mean? There's a process to it. You watch it where Mark's faking and shifting, changing his stance, and putting a bit of pressure on it, taking the pressure off, and then going to the body and give him some different looks, and then kind of capitalising on it. So I think for me, it's got to be Mark Ewan as knockout of the year.
Yeah. And what about the amateurs then?
I'm trying to think. I don't think there was like a clean knockout. There was a couple of guys got cracked, and then they've been dropped, and then maybe submitted or hit the ground and pound and stuff like that. But there was no like it can be a wee bit harder on amateur with the bigger clubs and stuff, man. And it's the 3-minute rounds. But I don't think there was anything that stands out. I need to go back and watch every single amateur fight we're involved with, which is a fair bit.
Jump on it. I'm assuming this one's got to be an easy category, because you mentioned him, Stevie again, sub of the year. His end note, it's kind of hard to look past Stevie even when you're looking at the gym, isn't it, for sub of the year?
In terms of the pro ranks, it was Stevie with Pettis. Again, it's not like a regional thing. I think it's in some of the posts for worldwide sub of the year and stuff. So it would be that. And the amateurs, it's Sean Clancy at IMA fought a guy called Joe Amber, who he's ranked number 1 in the UK at middleweight. I think he's like 7-1 or something. And Sean had a bad first day at IMA. So I wasn't there the first day, and I went down, and Sean had lost to a good guy called Rowan Cockworth the first day. Quite a close fight, but he deserved to lose. He made some stupid mistakes. And then I got there at night, and we spoke and stuff, and he came out the next day, and I think Joe Amber was probably maybe the favourite to win that middleweight tournament. I think Coker had quite a hard fight, a back and forth fight with him. And Sean ended up with Amber for the bronze medal match or something. And again, like, Sean's up a weight class and stuff. Sean's also up a weight. He's in with the adults, even though he was only 19 at the time. And I don't know if he's had a chip on his shoulder that day, but he's absolutely destroyed Joe Amber. Like he's came out, hit him, took him down, took his back and subbed him. And he's a hard guy to sub, but the guy who won the tournament had his back and stuff and couldn't sub him. And I think Sean getting that wee fright the first day, and then a combination of me just being in his ear, reminding him what he was about. But it's a big performance, that man, because Joe Amber's won. I think he holds like 2 or 3 kind of titles, amateur titles at different shows like Almighty and FFC and stuff like that. and he's well 40, and the loss that he has had before, I don't think it was anything like Sean's manhandled him. Sean's just been levels and levels above him. We've actually tried to get the fight again for some of his amateur titles, but he's not keen on it, and which is fair enough, because Sean did pretty much steamroll. So my professional sub, you're Stevie versus Pettis for the gym, and our amateur is Sean versus Joe Ambler. We choked him.
Brilliant. And just the last category, comeback of the year.
Christ.
Has there been one that stands out? Has there been a guy so far behind and poked something out the bag like a Leo? Did we actually do a comeback of the year for the
pros?
Done that for general, because I had Leon Edwards for that.
Aye. For all MMA, I think I would go Sergio Pettis versus Horiguchi at Bellator. He was getting outclassed massively. After Horiguchi struggling, and then he hit him with a spinning back fist. He missed a kick and nailed him with a spinning back fist. Leon's probably the same, to be fair. Like, both of them were, the kind of writing was on the wall, and then they pulled these shots out and changed it. I think we did forget to do that with the
I think we did.
Big scene. In terms of the gym, it's probably going to be Coonley. Like, again, if you look at his record going into 2022 and then coming out it, he's changed it a bit massively. He's definitely matured in some ways. Stuff's starting to click for him, so it's got to be him, I think.
But all in all, really good year for the gym, and obviously a lot of things coming up, and obviously Paul Craig joining the gym as well. That's exciting to say the least. Folk I'm sure everything British MMA is looking to see how Paul's going to look going into his next fight, given he's now over at higher level. And like you say, guys like Sean Clancy, Mark Ewan, Paul Lally, it's not going on, but it's a continual thing into the gym. It's just every year you've got guys coming through, you've got guys moving up into the world level. It's a continuous roller coaster.
It's just a conveyor belt. It's pretty easy for some of these gyms to have success with one guy or two guys, but we've pretty much been doing it continuously since about 2000. And I was part of the Dinky Ninjas, obviously, and then more so for when we started higher level 2011. There's always guys in the European rankings or on the big shows and stuff like that, so we'll just keep kind of the conveyor belt running. We're getting better. The guys coming through are going to surpass the guys that have been before them, which means that we're constantly progressing and stuff like that.